evening and welcome to the December 19th, 2023 meeting of the Greensboro City Council. We are in the Katie Dorset Council Chamber. People wishing to speak must sign up by 6 p.m. by using the Q-Minder kiosk just outside the council door. Please see the courier for assistance. This evening's meeting, speakers are on agenda items only. Let the record reflect that Mrs. Hoffman is participating via Zoom. Mrs. Hoffman?
Yes, I'm here, Mayor.
Thank you. And all other council members are in attendance. Please silence any electronic devices. If you must make or receive a phone call, kindly do so from outside the chamber. We will begin tonight's meeting with a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Matheny, would you lead us in the pledge? The City of Greensboro is committed to promoting an environment that is free of discrimination, bias, and bullying. In order to maintain a safe space for all, speakers and members of the audience, members of the audience or speakers from the podium who intentionally disrupt the meeting or ridicule others will be given a warning, and if unheeded, they will be removed from the meeting. That person will be suspended from in-person participation for 3 months. In order to preserve their right to free speech, they can attend virtually by Zoom, by phone, or by email. It is the goal of the City Council that this chamber is a welcoming space and that all residents feel empowered to bring issues of concern to their elected officials. Speakers are allotted 3 minutes for comments on specific agenda items. Zoning matters do allow for a 15-minute presentation both for and against the rezoning. There is a 5-minute rebuttal period for each side, pro and con. Zoom participants are requested to mute their microphone until they are called upon to speak. All meeting attendees are expected to respect the speakers and council deliberations. People disrupting the meeting will be removed from the meeting. By statute, council members must vote on all items unless there is a direct financial interest or if you sit on the board of a nonprofit receiving funding from the city. All votes must be moved and seconded. The mayor will announce the vote total. Let's see. We do have a consent agenda for items G1 through G20, which are a grouping of agenda items that are voted on with one single vote to expedite what are believed to be routine and non-controversial items. Any council member may withdraw an item from the consent agenda due to a conflict of interest or for the purpose of voting no. Items removed from the consent agenda for discussion will be placed on the January 16th meeting of the Greensboro City Council business agenda. This night does include closed captioning. Depending on the length of tonight's meeting, we may take a short recess around 7:30 p.m. Now is the time for our ceremonial and presentation items, and I am going to read a resolution naming December 21st, 2023, National Homeless Persons Memorial Day. Whereas December 21st, 2023 marks the first day of winter and is the longest night of the year. Whereas the National Coalition for the Homeless and the National Healthcare for Homeless Council have designated December 21, 2023 as National Homeless Persons Memorial Day. Whereas the City of Greensboro, the City of High Point, and Guilford County have jointly designated December 21st, 2023 as National Homeless Persons Memorial Day. Whereas in the season of generosity and sharing, the citizens of Greensboro are encouraged to commit themselves to promoting compassion and concern for all, particularly during the winter months that pose extreme hardships for Greensboro citizens who are less fortunate and without homes. Whereas homelessness continues to be a serious challenge for many Greensboro citizens who have the right to adequate food, housing, clothing, safety, and health care. Whereas homeless significantly increases one's risk of illness, injury, and death. Whereas the Homeless Memorial Walk of Remembrance will take place in Greensboro on Thursday, December 21st, 2023, to honor those who have passed away in 2023 as a result of homelessness. Whereas by joining together and remembering our neighbors, we can honor their lives by working to provide solutions and end homelessness within our city. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Greensboro that December 21st, 2023 is hereby named National Homeless Persons Memorial Day in Greensboro to remember those who have died homeless and to encourage citizens to come together to celebrate their lives by working to resolve the factors that lead to homelessness within our city. It looks like we have a speaker signed up to speak to the resolution. Mr. Marsh? Thank you.
I want to tell Mr. Holston and the rest of you that work to assist in cleaning up the East Washington corridor. We appreciate the attention to that small detail. And, you know, I guess it's adequate to be down here speaking tonight. Did not know that there would be a resolution, but I think that that's very much needed. Our homeless citizens in this city do deserve respect, and for us to be working diligently to come up with permanent solutions for what affects them, as well as others that visit our community that are homeless. And I just want to say that, you know, hopefully going into this next year, we've hit some stumbling blocks this year of what we could have done to further address these problems. I know Mr. Matheny has had numerous Fox 8 segments on this and coming up with permanent solutions that it seems like this is a recurring problem that does never have a permanent solutions that, you know, work to basically move some of these people out of this transition period that they tend to stay into. And so I just want to say that again, you know, I've presented the city with multiple options, not only for my benefit, but for that community's benefit, as well as for the city manager's office that, you know, sometimes we don't see eye to eye, but either way, we have to work together to come up with solutions for the business community that takes the brunt of some of these actions that never seem to come to any type of resolution. So again, you know, I do want to say I appreciate what you are doing for that community tonight, and hopefully we can all come with a solution going into next year that works to permanent solutions, not just temporary solutions. Cleaning up streets every 2 days, every week, every month, that just is untenable. And again, you run off businesses that pay taxes in this city, and we just have to do a better job. So I understand that it's a very hard job. There are no easy answers, but hopefully we can come up with those solutions that work for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe there was a motion and a second. Council, please vote. That was moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Mrs. Thurm. I don't know if there's anybody here to accept the resolution from staff. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor, for the resolution. I did just want to remind everyone that we will be having the Walk of Remembrance and a small ceremony on Thursday at 5:30 p.m. at the flagpole out here on the Washington Street side. We'll walk to Center City Park and back. So thank you.
Thank you. Now we move on to item E2, which is the city manager's report.
Nothing. Thank
Nothing
you.
this evening. Now we will move on to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Holston, second by Mrs. Abuzawader. Council, please vote. And that passes 9-0. We will now move on to the public hearing portion of our agenda. We do have one speaker signed up in favor. I'll read H1 and H2 together. Item H1 is a public hearing for an ordinance annexing territory into the corporate limits for the property located at 2810, 2812 Roland Road, 0.544 acres, Trace A. McKinney for McKinney & Sons Construction, LLC. And item H2, public hearing for an ordinance for original zoning for 2810, 2812 Roland Road, Tracy A. McKinney for McKinney & Sons Construction, LLC. Mr. Kirkman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Vaughn. Good evening, members of City Council. The request again is to annex these two properties into the City of Greensboro and establish original city zoning to City R5 residential single family. North and east of this request is currently zoned County RS20 residential single family. South of this request is zoned City R3 residential single family and County RS20. West request is zoned City CDCL as well as County RS20. The subject property is currently undeveloped at this time. North, east, and south of the request are single-family dwellings. West of the request are a combination of single-family dwellings and an indoor recreation use that is currently under construction. Properties are currently designated as residential on the future land use map of the comprehensive plan and as urban general on the future built form map. Staff has concluded this request does support the comprehensive plan's Creating Great Places goal to expand Greensboro's citywide network of unique neighborhoods, offering residents of all walks of life a variety of quality housing choices, and the Building Community Connections goal to maintain stable, attractive, and healthy places to live and raise families. The proposed R5 district accommodates lower density single-family detached residential development of up to 5 dwelling units per acre and allows uses that are similar to existing uses in the surrounding area, and staff is recommending approval of these requests. These requests were heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their November 20th meeting, and the Commission did recommend in favor of both the annexation and the zoning. There were no speakers on that item at that meeting. I can answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Kirkman? We do have one speaker signed up in favor, Trace McKinney. I don't know if you would like to comment or if you're here for questions. I guess neither. Do we have a motion on H1? Nobody spoke. So that was moved by Mrs. Thurm and seconded by Dr. Wells. Council, please vote. And that passes 9-0. We need a statement of consistency for H2. Moved by Mrs. Thurm, seconded by Dr. Wells.
The Greensboro City Council believes that its action to approve the original zoning request for the property at 2810, 2812 Roland Road from County RS20 to City R5 to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and considers the action taken to be reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. The request is consistent with the Comprehensive Plan's future built form map and future land use map. The proposed City R5 zoning district permits uses that fit the context of surrounding areas and limits negative impacts on the adjacent properties. The request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It will benefit the property owner and surrounding community and approval is in the public interest.
Council, please vote. And that passes 9-0. I will read H3 and H4 into the record. We do have one speaker in favor and one speaker opposed. Item H3 is a public hearing for an ordinance annexing territory into the corporate limits for the property located at 4012 Hickory Tree Lane, .61 acres, Ronald Benjamin. And item H4, a public hearing for an ordinance for original zoning for 4012 Hickory Tree Lane, Ronald Benjamin. Mr. Kirkman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Vaughn. Again, the request is for annexation and original zoning from County RS 40 residential single family to City R3 residential single family. North, east, and west of the request is also zoned County RS 40. South of the request is zoned a combination of County RS 40 as well as County CZ RS 3. Both of those are single family designations. The subject property is currently undeveloped at this point. The applicant is in the process of constructing a single-family dwelling on the property. North, south, east, and west of the request are single-family dwellings. The property is designated as residential on the future land use map of the comprehensive plan and as urban general on the future built form map. Staff notes that this request does support the comprehensive plan's Creating Great Places goal to expand Greensboro's citywide network of unique neighborhoods, offering residents of all walks of life a variety of quality housing choices, and the Building Community Connections goal to maintain stable, attractive, and healthy places to live and raise families. The proposed R3 district is intended to accommodate low-density, single-family detached residential development of up to 3 dwelling units per acre and allows uses that are similar to the existing uses in the surrounding area, and staff is recommending approval of this request. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this request at their November 20th meeting. They recommended denial of both the annexation and the zoning request. There were no speakers in favor and 3 in opposition. I would note that part of the issue with that, the applicant was present earlier in the meeting. When the large crowd left from a previous zoning case, there was a miscommunication with staff. He understood that the case had already been heard and unfortunately left and was not available for the meeting. The applicant is here this evening, though, to my knowledge, to be able to address the request. Answer any questions.
Thank you. Go, Sharon?
Yes, sort
So
of.
Mike, and I did find the zoning minutes.
Good.
One of the things I saw in the staff report, and I'll go back and find it, you gave a mixed message in your staff report, and I'm a little concerned by that because I believe what it says here, the request is consistent with the intent and purpose of the zoning code, inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, GSO 2040, and it's generally compatible. So with the existing development, what exactly made it inconsistent?
Do you know what page that's on? I don't see that.
That is the
that may be a typo, unfortunately.
That is the last page of the zoning minutes, the staff report. That is the very last paragraph.
Oh, that is a typo. It's supposed to be and consistent. I apologize for that.
Okay, because I was wondering why
Yeah.
there
no,
was a
that's-
mixed message.
That unfortunately is an error on the report, so I apologize for that. But it's supposed to read the intent and purpose of the zoning code and consistent with the comprehensive plan.
I'm just going to ask somebody to please spell check because it makes it's important because I do read these, and so it's important to help me understand. The second question, most of this is county from what you were saying, everything around it.
Yes.
And so the house beside it is county as well?
Yeah, I'm going to bring the map back up here. I think that'll help us. Yes, so basically everything that's in yellow on this map is in the city, and everything else is in the county's jurisdiction.
And the property is
The
shaded.
hatch mark, yeah.
It's shaded. Mm-hmm. So it is like 1, 2, 3 houses away from city on the left, and 1, 2, 3, 4, from the right. Okay. And it's non-contiguous, of course. Do you know the reason? Is it just to build a single-family home?
Yes, they're petitioning to access city water and sewer to build a single-family dwelling, and our policy, it's in growth tier 1, so it needs to be annexed in order to access city and water sewer to develop the property.
And was the house already being built and it was
I
determined that?
believe the house has started to be under construction, and I believe the applicant can speak a little more to that when he gets up here.
Which means it started under the county, but it was.
Yeah,
was
I
water-
think there was some efforts to begin to develop the site, and they realized that they had to connect to city water and sewer, and that triggered the discussion for annexation and zoning.
Okay, thank you for that.
Welcome. Sure.
And I have a general question, Mike. So in H3 and H4, same property. H3, the staff recommended approval. In H4, the staff recommended denial. Is that correct?
We are recommending approval for both items.
I'm looking at the minutes for H4. In the first paragraph, the very end.
I will clarify that staff is recommending approval of both items. I'll have to go
Okay.
back and look at that.
All right.
We do have one speaker in favor and 2 against. So our speaker in favor is Ronald Benjamin. Would you like to come to the podium? You have up to 15 minutes.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. My main purpose is to build a single-family home for me and my wife. For some reason or another, I have, a couple of people that feel that I'm going to do a group home because I am in that business, but this is basically for my personal self and my wife to live there. We like the community. It's a beautiful community, and we want to keep it that way. I tried several times to compromise with them in any kind of way, but they refuse to talk to me. I don't know why they don't want to talk to me, but it is what it is. But I'm not planning to do any kind of group home or any sort of just a family home for me and my wife so we could retire there. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Benjamin? Would this, I have a question for staff, and maybe it's Chuck. If it passes without any conditions on it, can he come back for a group home at a later date? And are there any restrictions where it wouldn't qualify for one?
Well, as you know, this is a hearing about zoning and annexation. That sets the frame for what he could use it for going forward. Typically, that doesn't involve an inquiry as to actually what the specific use may be. We've had many, developers come in here and show illustrative plans and so forth, and we often point out that none of that is a commitment unless there's a condition involved in the zoning that would make it a commitment. So he would have every right of an owner with this property under that zoning condition. And I think there's certain types of facilities that can be used that are similar to a group home, but maybe Mike might be able to be more specific.
Yeah, I was going to ask Sue or Mike, would it require a special use permit or?
So I think we need to make a distinction too, because there's a group care facility, which is a larger institutional style use, and there's a family care home, which is supposed to be more of a residential style use. A family care home is an allowed use in single family zoning. There's a requirement though that they must be separated from other family care homes by at least half a mile under our ordinance. So they would have to meet that standard in order to do one at this location.
For family care.
For a family care home. A group care would not be allowed. That's a much more intense institutional style use.
So a group home would not be allowed.
Right, it's under our ordinance, it's referred to as a group care facility. That would not be allowed. A family care home could be allowed in residential zoning, but it would have to be far enough away from other family care homes.
A minimum of a half mile.
Correct, under our ordinance.
Do you know if there are other family care homes nearby?
We know there's one next door at 4010, I believe, Hickory Tree, and I think there may be some additional ones in the area. All of those are in the county, obviously, so we don't have full records on that, but we did get independent verification, both from Mr. Benjamin and pulling information from the state, that there's one next door to this property.
So if there is one next door to his property, then it appears that he couldn't do a family care home either.
Absent a variance, yes, that's correct.
So, okay.
He said
Excuse me?
he said absence of variance is what.
Yeah, they would have to go to the
said?
Board of Adjustment and request a variance, which would be basically a 0-foot separation from another family care home.
So is that separation, is in writing so that,
That's in our ordinance, yes.
In our
It's a
ordinance?
development standard for a family care home.
so the house next door could not, the house building could not become an extension of the one next door? And I've checked the ownership, and I know that's not part of the zoning, so, but I am a little concerned about that. So could that become any kind of extension of what is already there? Could that be allowed?
It's a separate dwelling unit, so they could have up to 4 unrelated individuals as a family. That's allowed throughout the city, but that's an operation of a single-family dwelling.
But regardless, he's not asking for a family care or
Right, and I
family
mean,
care
Mr. Benjamin's
facility. It's just
noting
a
that here.
single-family residential rezoning that you're
For me and my
requesting.
wife, that's
Okay.
it.
Any other questions for Mr. Benjamin?
You have one for him?
A question for Mike?
Oh, so I understand the house was, there's a foundation, something already there, so the house was being built under the county, and so.
Well,
it's
they
a
were
lo-
starting the process. What they did, they cleared the trees and they started. This is the home builders that actually started. And at that time, I didn't know what I was supposed to have done. So they told me I had to do the annexation. So I ran into that problem, so they stopped and they said I had to go through the process for annexation. So this is why I'm here today, to try to get this approved.
So primarily you want water and sewer?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Hightower, are you through?
But the house beside it doesn't have water and sewer, and that,
Yes, it does.
The house beside has been annexed into the city?
No, but it would have been developed many years ago under different water sewer extension policies. So the current policy says that in order for him to access water and sewer, he would need to be annexed into the city.
okay.
Mrs. Stern?
Question, I guess, for Chuck, City Attorney Watts. Do we have the ability to add a condition at this point on this rezoning?
I wouldn't think that would be prudent.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, if you're through and there are no further questions, we do have 2 people in opposition, Ernest Allen and Para Tollison. I don't know if you have an order you would like to speak. Para Tollison is by Zoom. Can we see? Can you bring that person up?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ernest Allen. I live at 3913 Hickory Tree Lane. My wife and I built that house 49 years ago. We were fortunate to see every house that is in that neighborhood now except 2. So you're looking at about 40 houses that were built after our house was built. 4010 is a group home. The concern, and I'm the community watch coordinator, the concern with my neighbors is that 4012 might also become a group home. I have been assured by Mr. Benjamin, I've had 2 conversations with him since November the 20th. He assures me verbally that he does not plan to make 4012 a group home. He indicated to me that if a house is built on that property, he and his wife plan to occupy that house. He indicated to me the term that he used, it's going to be a luxury home. I asked him to define luxury home for me, put it in money value. He said $500,000 to $600,000. This is what he said. So I'm here tonight to represent my neighbors. And based on what I heard here tonight, and based on the way that I feel this is going, and based on my conversation with Mr. Benjamin, if indeed he's going to be a man of his word, you judge a man by his word and his character, and he's indicated to me twice as to what his plans are, then I will remove my opposition for Mr. Benjamin to move on with this project. If indeed the plans are to build a house on that property, and he and his wife occupy that house, and it not at any point in my lifetime become a group home. Have we had issues with 4010? Yes, we have. Have I written letters? Yes, I have. I'll give you some idea. I wrote a letter. I've written 3 or 4 letters. I don't have copies of all of them. But I'm going to give you some idea where the letters were written. State of North Carolina, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Health Services Regulation, Mental Health Licensure and Certification Section is where my letters have gone. I don't want to have to do this anymore. I don't want 4012 to become a group home. I know my time is about up. So thank you for listening. And Mr. Benjamin, I trust that you'll be a man of your word, and you'll put a house on there that you and your wife can enjoy and occupy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Para Tollison, I believe, is on Zoom.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
We can. I understand your camera isn't working.
Yes, that's correct. It's some reason, I think with the feed and everything, it doesn't like it, so just to keep the audio to make sure you can hear me.
Okay. Well, if you would proceed with your comments.
I sent some information to the committee members to review. I'm not sure if you're able to look at any of the materials I sent, but I would like to reference from some of them within this brief period. I'm not going to necessarily go through all of it, but it was to give you an idea. With the licensed facilities, that particular one, I sent it as a source document because if you look at the scroll down, I think it's 12.7, there, that one, the XLS file, that was one I was going to say you could do. You can pull it. It's for all those that are listed that Mr. Benjamin, that includes Mr. Benjamin's ownership. To my knowledge, he owns 11 properties, 11 facilities, but owns 4 buildings. 2 of them are right beside each other in the county and not far from the particular location that he's trying to build. And he owns the property. He's also his daughter owns the property 4010, but I think he leases or rents from that location for the current business. So I look at this from the business aspect. I can't necessarily take the person for his word. I know if you look at some of the documents I sent was one of them showing, let's see, I'm not sure what all you can show. I just sent that as an Excel, so if you want to download, you can. You will find out, if you do this, you will find several within our particular community and not just his. And so that's more of an inference, and if it's a source, if you want to check my data, that's where I pulled it for the source that I have. I'm not sure if you can go to another document, and I can speak from that one. Okay, that's just a listing of what they put out to where you can find it. So you can go into number 3 if you like. This one here, scroll to the bottom of the document for me, please. There are 8 in the location of 1 mile Tree Lane. And that is for our council to understand the difference between the county and the city of what is happening. And if you do one, I'm curious about your rules about the of if one is under the city and one is under the county, because what is not listed is that you can port a license to another, and possibly you can get a more direct answer from the council members about how that's done. And from based on the earlier questions, it sounds like they don't have to consult the community at large, only go through the owner of the home. So you can go to the next one, but that's just to give you an idea of the most immediate ones. And Mr. Benjamin owns several, one being 1596 Candace Road and one 1594 Candace Road, which are right beside each other. That's just rules and regulations for family care. I understand it's important. It's important for community. It's important to have the options, but that gets to the next one. I think he's going to go on to number 5, your next document. Yes, I specifically pulled this one. That's 4010. That's next door. That's his property. Scroll down. My point is that for almost the minute it started, we've had issues with that location. It doesn't mean the license can't be ported. Again, this is a business. He went from 1 to 10 within a 4-year period. My understanding, the property he wants to build next door is going to be a 5-bedroom, 4-bath house, which is in the range of having individuals come in. And you don't have to I'm not too sure how the licensing all works, because I couldn't really get a good answer from Department of Health and Human Services, and they have limited hours and staff, which I totally understand. But I'm opposed because of the fact that he has spoken to the community, said he's going to work on things. If you go through these records, there are times the community has reported issues, but it's not showing on DHSS records of those events taking place of individuals who's in their care, getting out, going in against residents, knocking on doors, opening cars, going through property. I don't know if it's a staffing issue, because I'm sure the money's probably not an issue if you can have 10 units within a 4-year period. So that's just to give you an idea. If you want to check my data, you can. But I can tell you the plan of correction won't necessarily, or the statement deficiency is not going to match up to events that have happened, because my understanding is that you go to him, to Mr. Benjamin or his daughter, who is the landlord of that particular location, to resolve it, and it's not getting back to the health, so it's not a pure picture of what's happening in that location. So this is, to me, a business. It's not about the home, because that's what the state and federal pay for. Those individuals be treated and given a good community, and I'm for that. But I'm not for business management, which is what is happening, which he will be rewarded for with a $600,000 type property. You can go to the next document, please. So this is what I'm getting to. Property ownership or rental. This is what I was speaking to. Number 1 and 2, he owns those. Those are within the mile range. What he doesn't say is that he bought the property, but then bought it with his LLC. I don't hear that's how that's addressed. He can resell it, and he's still keeping his promise, but it's the business that can change, that can go in and make a new home or a care facility. And I will say number 10, I couldn't find that one at all. It's listed on the spreadsheet, but I couldn't find it. But if you're looking at number 1, that was the 3rd property he bought. If number 2 was the 10th property, number 3 was the 5th property he had access, number 4 was the 9th property he got, number 5 is the 8th property, number 6 is the 6th property, number 7 is the 2nd property, the 8th one is the 7th property, and the 4th one is 9th property. 10 I can't account for. And the first one, 2017 was the first property that I can see that was listed on his daughter, which he told our family his daughter was buying her first home. He didn't mention it was going to be a group home. So I don't see the individual as someone as a man of his word. Because I got a couple of years and we have more data than I have time to say that he's not necessarily a man of his word. Not including the motorcycles that are down the street, including the other individual things that are going on. And it also doesn't, I don't know how the rules are addressed. If the neighbors are complaining, but if the neighbor or yours related to you, I don't know how that's done, because considering how 1 and 2 are with him owning both those properties. And they're both homes, but they're probably in the county. So how would that be addressed if one is county, one is city? And that, I'm not sure if I'm making any sense, but I had a lot of data and I don't want to overwhelm you. But the spreadsheet can speak volumes, because he's not alone. He has probably one of the fewer properties, others have multiples. So I see it as a business, and a business that can just tell you one thing and they can buy it out with their LLC or something else, and he still has kept his promise as a business. It doesn't mean he's going to officially retire there. And I don't know if the rules are, if he's living at one of these addresses, like number 2, 1594, I don't know if anyone is at that location. It doesn't mean that he's not living there. And I just only checked Guilford County. And almost all of these, if you go through the record, have problems. And so my fear is that our esteemed neighbor, his letters are not getting in because he keeps getting licenses no matter what deficiencies there are. So my concern is I do not believe the possible new neighbor will keep his word. And for full disclosure, the property that's 4010, my family built that house. My parents did. Came back. It is an excellent neighborhood. Came back and moved back in next door at the time. 4010 and 4012 were one property, and she sold it off, or it was officially divided off and sold off. So it's officially a good thing. So the third thing, the last thing I had was a video reference to the meeting in which I wanted for you all to hear, because that spoke more to the character of what's been going on, that also spoke to some of the history. And that's what Mr. John Patterson, instead of sending a video file, I cited it within the planning minutes to where it started. I don't know if they did it or not.
Ms. Tollison, are you through with your comments?
Yes, but I wanted to see if that video segment that I had submitted was going to be played or not.
I'd like to. I'm reading the minutes, but I would like to see the video.
It was Mr. John Patterson's presentation. I sent a link to the planning committee and said where it started, because I didn't think I could send a video file that large through email.
Typically, we don't view videos that have not been able to be reviewed.
No, it's the video. It's you all. It's the planning committee's own videos. It's up online.
It wasn't submitted beforehand so that somebody could review it. There's a lot of stuff online.
Well, no, it's the video testimony that's linked to the planning committee. It was his presentation.
I'm not really trying to debate with the speaker. I was just pointing out our policy.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. I assumed it was okay. I would have tried to send it then, because it was at the 3 hour, 16 minute, and 16-second point when Mr. Patterson spoke. Because we waited. I do find it interesting that we didn't hear that it was disposed. We are those in opposition waited the whole for almost 4 hours to speak.
Is the video marked at the spot?
I said the timestamp, it starts at 3 hours and 16 minutes and 16 seconds is when he approaches the podium.
It starts at 3 hours and 15 minutes?
That's the timestamps. You go through the video player, the 3 hour mark, 3:16:16 is when he is speaking.
Yeah. They were 3 hours into the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they needed, right, 3 hours, 16. But if it's part of what she sent in, then it's...
I mean, if it's a video of our proceedings, that's not an
Right.
issue.
It's from our
That's not
meeting,
an issue.
our zoning planning meeting. Okay, because I know I've shown.
Anybody want to make a motion to continue?
No, I showed them quite a popular video at one point in time.
No audio.
No one, there's no
Can
desire
you
to
turn?
continue.
You can't turn the volume up?
So if the applicant is not present and there is no one to speak in favor, then we will allow anyone to speak in opposition. I believe if you
Well, we
come
really
to the
can't
podium and
hear that.
identify yourself, please.
And the one thing I would say that differentiates this from that meeting is that the applicant had left already and was not able to give his side of the story.
Matter of significant concern to the residents of our esteemed Young Acres community by formally opposing the zoning request submitted by Mr. Ronald Benjamin. My decision to make this request is grounded in a thorough consideration of Mr. Benjamin's track record in property development, particularly his actions
the city
at the
attorney-
adjoining
I'm
property
sorry.
at 4010
Hold it,
Hickory Tree
please.
Lane, as well as his involvement
Please pause
in the
it.
Candace Ridge and Pleasant Hill neighborhood
If I may get the
developments.
clock stopped real quick, and sir, I apologize for interrupting you, but at the outset of the meeting, I stated that, you know, this deals with land use. We really
Where'd that come from? Oh, that's on the recording? That was loud enough. I do want to say that we really have
Yeah,
to,
that was the video.
we
that
have to stick to land use, not a person's character. The zoning meeting and what zoning tells us is we have to look at the land use and what it can be used for. That's it. So, you know, to talk about other properties that he owns isn't really relevant by statute to this hearing. Is that correct? Thank you.
Exactly.
So normally we would review a video before it's played, and they have not had the chance to review that. And if it's all about Mr. Benjamin and not about the property, it would not be appropriate. So, well, I don't know. Ms. Tollison, are you?
I'm still here. I hear it, but because you, like you said, you haven't reviewed it, it does address the property, but I'm not too sure when you can get to review that part since you've paused it. Because to me, the property part is how it's used. You talk about stable, attractive, and places to live, and benefits property owners, surrounding community, and the development of this will, as it stands, will not benefit the surrounding community, and that's what Mr. Patterson was speaking to, and also being stable.
Is that the end of your comments for this portion? There is a 5-minute rebuttal period.
Yes.
Are there any questions for Ms. Tollison? Okay, Mr. Benjamin, you have a 5-minute rebuttal if you wish to use it.
All I have to say is, yes, I do take care of a lot of mental health people that need homes, and I make sure that they live just like I do. So I feel that's discriminating against communities that have rights to be anywhere they want to. But like I told them, that's not my intent. I never lied to anybody, never did something that I wasn't supposed to do because I wasn't raised that way. I'm just helping people. And so if I'm helping people and that's wrong, I don't know what to say about this world. But this is personally for me and my wife. We work hard to make sure that people live good, just like anybody else. Every one of my homes is in top-notch shape. They live just like anybody else. They eat like everybody else. That's all I do. I try to make it right for all these guys that deserve that. That's all I have to say.
So, Mr. Benjamin, I just want to make sure you're aware of, so if you were to buy this property and there is a facility next to you, that you would not be able to do a group home.
No, it's not
That
gonna
you
be.
would have to go before the Board of Adjustments if you wanted to change that, and the
No.
Board of Adjustments would certainly take this zoning hearing into consideration.
Yes.
So I think that should give the applicants some comfort.
Yes, no problem. I have no problem with that. My intent, like I said from the beginning, is to build a family home for me and my wife.
Okay.
That's it.
Do those in opposition, would you like to do a 5-minute rebuttal?
So I can I just ask a quick question, Mr.
Yes.
Benjamin?
Yes.
I was reading through the rest of the notes, and I think one of the zoning commissioners even asked this question. The size of the lot, the way he asked the question, is this a large size piece of property?
It's like the normal size of all the other homes. It's nothing bigger than the others. It's going to fit right in with everything else that is around there.
Do you want to pull the zoning map up again?
Yeah.
Mr. Kirkman, could you bring that up?
Sure.
Well, I know keeping the character of that neighborhood, that's one of the older neighborhoods out in that particular area, and they're getting hit with a lot of rezoning stuff coming their way. So I know that many of them want to try to keep the character of the home. But I was curious about the size of the lot. Did you get it back up? Okay, there it is. Oh, it's a kind of a, it's not that big.
Can we go back to the aerial view once we're finished with this one?
Sorry.
That's right.
That's great. Is that what you need, Councilman?
It's pretty long. It's a pretty long lot. It's pretty deep.
I think the ones next to it are deep also.
They're all the same, basically.
Did you previously offer that this is going to be a 5-bed, 4-bath, or is that someone else?
Someone else digging in my personal. Like I said, it's just a personal home that I built, and it's for me and my wife, and that's all my tent was.
I think that's all you need to say.
Yeah.
I think you've made your point, Mayor. I think that if you do something else, you're probably going to get in trouble. So I don't recommend it.
Right. No.
So let's move on.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Are there, is there any rebuttal? I'll ask a second time. Can we?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
I know he said about to move on, but
No, you don't have to. Go ahead.
it's not as easy to say when you're not the individuals living there. You're representing, I'm sure that the policy, but the execution of the policy is not necessarily going to stay as stated, as written within what you all have. My concern is, again, if you look at the history, properties can be purchased and by businesses and change the rules. Also, I don't see how it's addressed if one is listed under city and one is listed under county. Those are different rules per se, even looking at the zoning that we sent about units within a mile, and within the city it's supposed to be half a mile, and that would break that. So I would be curious as to how that would be resolved if technically they're under two different rules, jurisdictions, because one's under county and one's under city.
It would go by the city's regulations, and we would include the group homes, family homes that are in the county.
Okay, so you would then cite the other ones within the mile, or just only the ones at presence at the time? That's more of a question, but I didn't hear how that was going to be done. And also, from my understanding, it doesn't necessarily go through the community; it goes through you all first, correct?
Ask that question again.
If there is a change, let's say in 2 years, that goes before a committee. It doesn't go through the neighborhood. The neighbors are not in part of that, correct?
If he wanted to change, if he wanted to use a group home or a family care home, he would have to go in front of the Board of Adjustments, and there would be a sign in the front yard that says when the Board of Adjustment meeting is. And the neighbors get letters, 600 feet, 700 feet.
750.
And that's what would have happened in that, or that under county.
Neighbors get letters.
Adjacent property owners and when it's Board of Adjustment.
Adjacent property, okay.
So because, so adjacent, one of them, would that include the one that's being done or the one to the left of it? So instead of 4010 be 4008, for instance?
That's right, it's less.
Just want to make sure.
It's less than 750.
There are multiple ways that a Board of Adjustment case, should it ever come to that we advertise in the paper, and the Peacemaker, the adjacent property owners receive a letter, and it's posted, so that if you don't get a letter, you can see the sign that is posted with the contact information in there.
And just to be clear, property owners are the ones who can respond, because other properties can rent out, for instance, so rentals can't speak.
There's nothing that limits who can speak. So,
Okay, because I just want to make sure about impacting if that was the case. Just want to make sure. But I do want to say to one thing he stated about, someone digging into his business. He is the one who sent out some information to the community chair who spoke earlier about what type of house he would have there. That's why I said what I said, because that's what he told the individual when he said he was a man of his word. He was going to try to see if he believed him. But the community watch person who spoke is the one who sent out the information, or within that group, about what type of house it would be. And that's why I said what I did.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay, if those are the final comments,
Yes.
So,
all in favor say aye. Opposed? That passes 9-0.
Mr. City Attorney, I have a
Mr.
question.
Benjamin, you can sit down.
Yeah. After this, I really would like to get some clarification on what happens when a group home is in a county and group homes in a city, what those regulations look like, enforcement look like.
You'd like us to provide you with that?
Yeah, I would
Sure.
I would like to know that, how this categorized.
Some of the confusion has to do with the exact label. There are multiple labels here involved. Group home is not one of them, but I know what you're talking about.
Well, group care,
Right.
however
But
you
it's
want
a
to.
smaller version and a larger version, and the county's language may be similar, so I have to kind of make sure I know what you're exactly pointing at, and we can certainly provide that.
Yeah, I'm very interested in knowing that difference, even though this is something new that's come up tonight.
Okay, we close the public hearing. Concerns, questions, motions? Okay, moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Tammy, and this is for the annexation. And that passes 8-1 with Mrs. Hightower voting against. I need a motion for the next item with the statement of consistency. Moved by Mrs. Thurm, seconded by Mrs. Buzowater.
The Greensboro City Council believes that its action to approve the original zoning request for the property at 4012 Hickory Tree Lane from County RS 40 to City R3 to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and considers the action taken to be reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. Excuse me. The request is consistent with the Comprehensive Plan's future built form map and future land use map. The proposed City R3 zoning district permits uses that fit the context of surrounding area and limits negative impacts on the adjacent properties. 3, the request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It will benefit the property owner and surrounding community, and approvals in the public interest.
Council, please vote. And that passes 8-1 with Mrs. Hightower voting no. Now we move on to the general business portion of our agenda. Item I-1 is a resolution to authorize a contract in the amount of $645,500 with Forestdale Meadows LLC. Are there? Moved by Mrs. Abuzawader, seconded by Mrs. Thurm. Council, please vote. And that passes 9-0. Item I-2 is a resolution approving change order number 2 in the amount of $36,328.66 with Barr Construction, Inc. for Phase 2 improvements and closeout to Spencer Love Tennis Complex for contract number 2018-059A. Moved by Mr. Matheny, seconded by Mrs. Abuzawader. Council, please vote. And that passes 9-0. Item I-3 is a resolution to amend professional services agreement in the amount of $250,000 with Greensboro Sports Foundation.
Madam Mayor, I need to recuse myself. I serve on the board of the Sports Foundation.
Okay, so noted. Moved by Mr. Hightower.
Mr.
Oh my God! I stopped. Moved by Mr. Zach Matheny, seconded by Mrs. Abuzawader. I apologize.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, that's right. Who was the second? It was not Mary Kay. Seconded by Mrs. Thurm. Now I'm afraid to say. Council, please vote. Has everybody voted?
Councilmember Hightower and Hoffman.
Mrs. Hightower, please vote. Mrs. Hoffman?
I vote yes. My voting screen did not come up for some
Okay.
reason.
And that passes 8-1 with Mrs. Abuzawader recused. 8-0 with Mrs. Abuzawader recused. Thank you. Item I-4 is an ordinance establishing, I want to make sure I'm in the, it is. Item I-4 is an ordinance establishing Tanger Center General Capital Improvements Fund. Moved by Mrs. Abuzawader, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. And just for general knowledge, this is to be able to spend some of the money that Tanger Center made. Is that correct?
Councilmember Hoffman.
You know, the voting link is not coming up.
Okay.
I'm voting for it.
So again, this is money that they've earned that we are allowing them to spend, and that passes 9-0. Thank you. Item I-5, boards and commission list. Mrs. Hightower? No? Dr. Wells?
Appoint Sadie Edwards to the Commission on the Status of Women to replace Tiffany Rudd.
That was seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Okay. Dr. Wells, anyone else? Mr. Matheny? Do you have any boards and commissions? Mrs. Hoffman? Boards and commissions?
I have no appointments, Mayor. Thank you.
Mrs. Thurm? Mayor Pro Tem? Mrs. Abuzawader? Mr. Holston? All right. Council comments? Mrs. Hightower?
So first of all, let me just say, Yeah, we're going to adjourn on a high note. Mr. Hightower.
Mr. Hightower. Wow.
So for many of you all, I'll leave that comment for last. One thing I do want to, I have a concern about, Mr. City Manager. You know, we voted a few months ago to do a southeast area plan. And while I think maybe now there's been an RFP to get someone to do that, this thing has been dragging out and dragging out. So most recently, there's been discussion of an overlay district for down friendly. Mr. City Attorney, I asked you today, because I've heard some things saying overlay districts aren't allowed. I don't know. Were you checking that out for me? If it's not allowed, then why are we doing it? Then stop. But if it is allowed, what is the process? And why is it moving faster than the Southeast Area Plan? I want everything to stop until the Southeast Area Plan has begun. We talked about it. We gave direction to do it, and yet it's just like whatever it is I try to do just gets hung up, gets stopped. I don't get it. But something else come along, and that just rolled. To the point that I saw it on the news. I even saw it on the news. And the news said, oh, it's going to be a public hearing in January. We're going to look. I'm like, well, what? Please make me understand this. Because right now, I don't. And until we get this moving properly, we need to focus only on what we said we were going to do months ago. We committed, and the council did vote to support a Southeast and area plan. And that needs to happen.
I mean, if I'm going to respond to that, the planning director is not here, but I don't know where this is coming from. Nothing has changed. Nothing has stopped. We issued a request for proposal, and I believe that that request for proposal, either the deadline just came and went or is almost. I know that personally I had planning firms that reached out to me because they saw it posted as recently as 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. So I'm not sure where it's coming from that nothing has been going forward. I know that things have been moving forward. I saw an email from Krista Black earlier, and I just want to caution council that sometimes people make assumptions without necessarily verifying, their facts or their information. Council did not ask us to do an overlay district. They did ask us to move forward on the Southeast Area Plan. And I know that we are. And I know that there's even been conversations around bringing a staff person on board to help manage that effort. And so, unless someone tells me that they've heard otherwise, I do know that in what I've been briefed on, as recently as last week, nothing has changed. Everything is still moving forward.
I'm not saying nothing has changed. What I'm saying to you is there's two paths here. I saw the email from Ms. Black as well. I'm not concerned about her email while it was factual. In essence, that's not the point. The point is, I brought this up months ago, and it just seems to have drug and drug and drug. Now I hear about an overlay district. That's not something that has been made up. That's something I saw on the Fox 8 News myself that I saw, and they even listed a schedule of there are going to be public hearings, they're moving forward in January, and I'm like, well, once again, we got a plan in another area that can move quicker than the one we've been talking about and waiting on. And I've been very patient because I get there's a process. I get you want to do an RFP. You want to get the appropriate planner. But again, I want all the focus on this Randaman Road corridor in the southeast area. You know there's things that now are starting to happen in that area that if we don't have some kind of say in, it's just going to be a mishmash of stuff. It's going to be something very similar to what we have tonight. We're going one thing in the county, one thing in the city, one thing here, one thing there.
Are you
We
talking
need
about?
I understand, but I need some. I need to feel like that there is some urgency, there is some concern. I just need to feel that way, and I don't feel that way. When you see the news and you hear what was said on the news, and you're like, well, where did this come from? Where did this overlay district come from? Where did this move forward come from? I just need to feel like there is some focus.
Are you talking about?
I really do.
Overlay district for southeast or for another? I don't understand the connection between overlay.
That's being proposed for the Friendly Avenue area.
All right.
That's being proposed for Friendly, the big zoning. It's a whole article in the paper. It's on the news.
But I would.
I'm saying to you, I really don't want to have to say what I really feel down here.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I will also say that I would. It's almost like comparing apples to oranges. Overlay district and area plan are not the same thing, and one requires a different level of effort.
It's not a matter of it being the same thing. I'm not talking about the plan itself. I'm talking about the attention to the plan and how one is moving, and one is moving this way, and one is moving like this. That's what I'm speaking of.
I'll take a look at it. I absolutely do, but I don't really think it's because of any malicious intention. If that's what I'm hearing, I don't think it is because of that. But I will look into that.
I just would like to see the attention and the focus
I will.
on an area that's really growing, and it's growing by leaps and bounds, and people in the community want to feel like they're part of something going to be designed for them, to protect them. And that's what's not being felt.
Okay.
And maybe something's happening behind the scenes, but right now it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. And so lastly, as all of you know, I've been out because I am now a new grandmother, and I've got a brand new grand girl, beautiful girl named Skyland Brielle. And she is the love of my heart, and I will be working harder than ever to make sure this community is a good place for her to live in. I'll tell you that right now. So, but she is beautiful. She's very beautiful, and she's a sweetheart. And so this has been the best few weeks, and I look forward to much more joy in the future. So thank you all for understanding why I was away for a little while. I almost didn't come. I almost didn't come tonight, but my daughter said, "Mom, it's okay."
I just love the way she makes you smile.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she does. She warms. She's my little lollipop. Sweet. Yeah. So, thank you all.
Dr. Wells?
Hope that everyone will have a blessed holiday season, and it's good for all of us to be together. I'm glad and congratulate Councilwoman Hightower as being a grandmother, and I think all of us up here know the joy of having grandchildren. So wish all of you a happy holiday. Merry Christmas.
What?
Matt, I'm sorry. And Mary Kate, you keep looking and you keep looking. Y'all keep hoping and praying.
Oh. Thank you. Mr. Zach Matheny? Mrs. Hoffman?
Nothing other, Mayor. We're living in very troubled times, but I can only wish for our city and our citizens a holiday of an enjoyable holiday with family and friends, and for a peaceful time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Thurm?
Likewise, I'd like to wish everybody a wonderful holiday season and a meaningful holiday season filled with peace and joy. I'd also like to thank those members of the community that came out last week for the rededication of the statue, as we had a meaningful and a very important service at the Women of the Shoah She Wouldn't Take Off Her Boots statue. And thank you, Madam Mayor, for coming and sharing your fine words with us. It was very much appreciated.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
I just want to wish all of you in Greensboro and in this country and in this world, if you're celebrating a holiday, a great holiday, but I wish all of you peace and contentment and love. And I just encourage you to reach out to those you love, your family, your friends, and enjoy them and be grateful that you have them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Boozwaiter?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to make sure that everyone who is traveling is very safe, that we all take this time to reflect, and hope that everyone will pray for peace. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holston?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very briefly, first, thank you so very much for the resolution on homelessness. It's an issue that is really impacting our community, and I want to say that this council has done a lot towards homelessness and housing, and I look forward to doing even more in the future so that everybody in our community can have a place to call home. And then also for everyone to have a happy and safe and peaceful holiday season, and we'll see you in 2024. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Did you need to add something, Mrs. Hightower?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I was so excited about my grandbaby. Yeah, there's one other thing I need to discuss, Ms. City Manager. That SBE that I've been waiting for, that's another one that I'll just say again, it's moving like this. It's just moving like this. We went to the legislature. We got it passed. We fought to get it passed. And now it just seems like it's sitting in quicksand. And I need to see the urgency around this. We should have already had something proposed and start to be working on, not only just working on it, but getting the plan implemented alongside the MWBE piece. There is the small business enterprise piece. And the first time we went to the state legislature, they didn't pass it. The second time we went, we got it. And so now, what are we doing with it? I just need to see a better sense of urgency when it comes to these things. So, Mayor, I don't, I know you, Mayor, have been asking me about what's going on with it, Quite frankly, I don't even know.
Well, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel on this. When Charlotte and Durham both have SBE programs, I don't see why we can't pick the best out of both and come up with our own. But it has been, I think, over a year now.
Yeah, well, it's been, if I can go back and find where it was filed in 21. Mm-hmm. So it's been too long. And yeah, I mean, the SBE piece of it should not be that complicated and difficult to put together. Yes, we want to look at some things here in this area, but we have numbers from before. We have data. Why are we not getting it done?
You won't find any disagreement from me on that one. We will provide you an update on both of those two items this week.
Thank you so very much. Now I'll end on a good note. Hey, sweetie pie lollipop, it's your Grammy.
Oh, my God. Mr. Holston, you had something quick you needed to add?
Yes, I want to say congratulations to Bishop George Brooks. Earlier this month, there was a dedication of the private drive there at Mount Zion Baptist Church. Was joined there by Mayor Vaughn and also Dr. Wells. And Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm looking right at you. It was an honor to be there and to celebrate with Bishop Brooks on the dedication of his new private drive.
Thank you. I just want to say happy holidays to everyone, no matter how you celebrate. Enjoy the time you have with your families. There are many people in our city and across the globe who have empty spaces at the table. And if we would keep them in our prayers and hug our families just a little bit tighter, I think, amen. You guys don't have anything? All right.
Well, just also want to wish everyone happy holidays.
Ditto.
Motion to adjourn? All in favor, say aye.